Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tar Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution or Eros Evolution. This is where sexuality and spirituality meets. My name is Martha. I'm a clinical sexologist with a doctorate in human sexuality. I'm based in Singapore. I started to go up to KL, Malaysia, to see clients. And today we're going to be talking about sex, spirit, and creation. So we're going to be with Adele Lim, and she's the founder of and lead catalyst at Whole Capacity. She's released 2 books in a very short amount of time. The first one being Live Your Whole Capacity, and the other being Love with Passion and Perspective. So she'll be sharing with us her take on sex, spirit, and creation. Her wish is to create awareness of sexuality as a portal of creation and of the potential misuse during high conflict, separation, and divorce in international families. So that's this convention that she's going to be talking about. Okay, in her books, she talks about her personal and professional experiences and knowledge in the area of sexuality, spirituality, and family love, for individuals to develop their own inner sense of guidance from a deep place of knowing and to create their desired future with greater intentionality. Wow. Okay, so a little bit more about guest. She's Malaysian born, UK based. She's calling from London. Adele Lim describes herself as a catalyst with a background in finance and human resources, specializing in personal and organizational development. She works with individuals and multinational companies experiencing periods of massive change so that everyone can thrive and co-create and journey in their desired future together. So more about our guest later. Do check out her website, wholecapacity.com, and facebook.com/wholecapacity. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Martha. Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. So I've been doing this show like 2 years now, and usually I get sex experts. And you have a very different role. You come from the corporate sector, and you wrote these 2 books. So tell us more about your books. What are they about?
So my first book was is Live Your Whole Capacity, which I think you mentioned at the introduction. And that book took me about 7 years to write. Okay. And it basically, I felt a sense of completion of that book as I worked to heal my own relationship with my sexuality. And the second book, Love with Passion and Perspective, I wrote within 6 months through divine flow, through connecting with spirit, and came to be out of my own life experience of navigating through a cross-border divorce and coming across this thing called the Hague Convention. So really my books talk about how to basically live your whole being by connecting all these portals of creation.
So what is Live Your Whole Capacity about? You mentioned it's about sexuality. Tell us more.
Well, there is I dedicate a chapter to sexuality under the part called Choiceful Creation. So Live Your Whole Capacity, I try to break down into the elements of identity, of nature, and of choiceful creation as a way of providing a basic framework for us to guide our own growth, because all of us are different, and yet we rely on external gurus and teachers and workshops, which all have their place. But at the end of the day, we have to also develop our own capacity to trust our inner guidance. And in my journey in that period, I was trying to understand actually what was the black box. What was it that kind of made everything click? And I kind of developed this what I call elements of looking at the various aspects of who you are, which I term identity, and then looking at how these various aspects of who you are interact with the nature, or interact with the other aspects of other people and your context, the environment that you're in. And this interaction is what I call the nature or the rhythm or whatever you want to, you can put a different name to it. But I call it nature because I think that there is a certain tune to that. And once we have an awareness of how these things interplay, then what I found is that we develop a greater capacity to create from a bigger space of self, from a greater awareness. And I call that choiceful creation. So basically, learning to create more choicefully, not just consciously. Consciously is one aspect of it, but really, to be aware, being aware of the choices that is available, the choices that gets opened up by virtue of an understanding through an embodiment of the various aspects of who you are, and embracing every aspect of who you are, and allowing the third entity that comes up, which is your nature, in the room to guide the intelligence of what was happening, and to then enable you to create from a stronger position, from a more loving space, from a more open space. So that's kind of how I bundled it together into the book, Live Your Whole Capacity. So really, a lot of us have potential that is unknown and untapped into, purely because we might not necessarily be guided in a certain way through our system, through our social conditioning, through our day-to-day busyness. But if we start to take a step into the moment, into who we really are, into all the different aspects of inquiry, and looking at all the experiences that we have gathered in our journey, then we open up more and more portals of creation.
That's cool. I guess I'm still a bit confused, like how exactly is the process. Is there any maybe suggestions you have for listeners on how they can get started?
I would say, I'd love to engage in dialogue. So if people, if I have anyone who's really interested to, have a conversation with me about the elements in the book, or to get a book and then, to discuss the aspects of it with me, I'm more than happy to engage. But really, I think that I get asked a lot, like why is sexuality such an important aspect, or not an important aspect? Why is it even a part of a professional development book? Because I originally intended it to be, written for the professional development audience, and it is from my own experience that I discovered that how on earth can I, as a human development expert, forget and miss out such a big integral part of how could I miss out sexuality when it is a core part of every human being? It is the source of life. It is the source of creation. And can we truly and deeply develop creativity without ever looking into and including our sexuality? Because in my experience as a human development person or practitioner, for a long time, no one really talks about it. It is really taboo in social circles, and a lot of times in the office, it's not really talked about. So my discovery is that it is actually quite central, and my argument is that can we really truly create well if we don't have a healthy relationship with our sexuality? So in terms of people wanting to get started, I think that for me it's the impulse, or it's the impetus that comes up for every person is different, and the return to attending to what is calling within, and really tuning into what is calling within, that that will guide you towards your next step and your next step and your next step. And the fact that why we meet certain people and why we have certain conversations. For me, I come from a perspective of radical inclusion. So I don't exclude everything, and I truly believe that everything has a thread in the whole process, in the whole journey. And we are here to discover all these aspects of who we are in order to grow, to evolve, to live the best life. We're here to be awesome. We're here to be to live well as we can be. So in terms of guidance, I always put it back to the people that I work with, and to really come back to the moment of what are you really feeling now, right now? What is it? What is triggering you? What are you feeling? And when people come back to what they're really feeling, then more comes up and more comes up. And often we try to not feel our way into things. We try to work it through, think it through. We try to find ways to soothe feeling, when actually all we really need is to sit with it and observe the energy move. Is one way. Explore it, discover it through conversations, through movement, through what I call dialogic processes. These two books were really written through and through with the inner dance process that I experienced myself, and I'm also an inner dance facilitator. There's much more that I can talk about, and I think that the book it highlights.
Okay, great. So yes, after this break, let's talk about inner dance and how that is.
Yeah.
So we're with Adele Lim,
okay.
And we're talking about being with yourself and letting the emotions come forth and guide you.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Kelly Fox, host and astrologer of The Astrology Show. Each week, I'll give you access to the current transits, which are a valuable tool that provide astrological information to help unlock the potential each of us has. Understanding the stars can help steer us in the right direction to make better informed choices. So if you're wondering what's going to happen in your week ahead, be sure to tune in to The Astrology Show for guidance, Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
No.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution, or should I say welcome back. So you're listening to Eros Evolution on the OMTimes Radio Network, and you can share this show with your friends by going to the link omtimes.com/mobile. With this link, you'll be able to listen to the show without needing to download any app. So we're with Adele Lim, the founder of and lead catalyst of Whole Capacity. And today's show title is Sex, Spirit, and Creation. Just before the break, she was talking about her two books. The first one being Live Your Whole Capacity, and then other being Love with Passion and Perspective. So in the first book that she has, she talks about this being meant for the organizations, and how she includes a chapter on sexuality, because this is an important aspect of us living fully, and she could not include that in her book. So a little bit more about Adele. She is in her company, Whole Capacity. What they do is it's a global web of catalysts working with individuals and organizations to facilitate movement and innovation in change and growth. There's an emphasis on systemic approaches and leading from the core. Her work inspires and sustains change on multiple levels. She's also the creator of Loving Space. It's a project series in support of international families experiencing massive change, and the leader of Passion Share Fest, a platform for women to share their journey towards doing what they're doing and showcase passion, products, and offers. So she speaks with us about the process of change, her role as a catalyst, and her take on sex, spirit, and creation, and in her work to create spaces to inspire innovation, creative growth, and freedom. So yes, Adele. So tell us, just before break, you were talking about inner dance and how you're a facilitator, and that is also one of the things that you teach and facilitate to support people to reach their full potential. So what is inner dance?
I was starting a sentence and then I realized that the break was coming. I actually, it was part of the inner dance process that I managed to complete the books. I think that was one of the things that I realized, that as I started to work on my relationship with my own sexuality and worked on really clearing up unhealthy shame and unhealthy guilt, which I think the inner dance process helped the energy to work through, and the circles and the community around that, and the leader around that. That was when I was able to. I felt able to birth the two projects. So the two books. I discovered the inner dance process by chance, through almost like an energetic awakening. I don't want to give it fancy names, but I do write about it in the book. I do tell the story about how I had this breakthrough moment on the plane, and how when I came back, I was basically living with perpetual arousal for almost a week long, and how strange that was for me, and etc. But in that period, that was when I met the person who introduced me to the inner dance. And when I then found out that the founder was going to be in town, I just signed up and went for it. And from that point on, it was like a no-brainer that this was essentially what I needed to work through the next stage. So, So in terms of
but what is inner dance?
Well, it's for me, it was part of the process, part of the journey. So inner dance, I would call it as like an inner movement based on energy that flows within, and is a use of music to kind of get the body into a dreaming awake state. But for me, that was the tool that got me to experience a lot of things that I would not have experienced, and move through certain blockages within my system that I would not have otherwise worked through. And it's almost like I don't like to use the word healing, but it's the through the movement of this massive amount of energy through the body, and through working with the energy in that way, in that healthful way, to allow my sitting with unhealthy shame and allowing it to show me what it needs to show me, I was able to work through it. So in terms of facilitating it, what we do is that we use music, like I was saying earlier, to put you in a position where you can be open to receiving the energetic flow that comes through pure vibrations of nature. That's as much as that I can use to describe it. It's more of an experiential thing, and a dreaming awake state. But I worked really closely with the founder who wrote the foreword of my first book, and in the review of my first book was when the idea for my second book came about, as I was navigating kind of my marriage, my relationship with my ex-husband, and in terms of both the family love and the sexuality aspect and things like that. In the review of the first book, the second book came to be, but it only finished when I decided to leave my marriage. So basically, I had a felt sense of completion when I decided that was the end of my marriage, and it was quite like a divine flow that I experienced, where there was no choice but to do it, and I couldn't resist. If I resisted, I just would feel fear, anxiety, pain, and everything else. So I just had to let go and let it come. And essentially, this book was birthed out of that process as well. So the person who then wrote the foreword for my second book, Serena Olsen, is the lady who now perhaps I would say is looking after the whole inner dance process and work around this area, while the founder is on his second hermitage. So he went into silent retreat now for 2 years. But yeah, so I'm completely indebted to the community and to the process. I personally do not facilitate inner dance as an experience. I do encourage people to experience it, but I also do privately if it is part of my catalyzed session, if it is required by the person, if it is desired by the person at all. But what I tend to do is I work in co-creative partnership with my clients, with my customers, whether it's corporate or individual. I work because we are all at different have different needs, different requirements, and so I work with my clients' own framework, their own mapping processes, and their own ways of being, own ways of changing and growing, and their appetite for which areas of their lives that they want to focus on. But I have tended to work primarily in change. So people who are going through significant periods of change will come to me. People who want to talk about their sexuality and how they feel that it is stifling, and that's when I thought that I feel that okay, this person is on that path, on that journey now, where they know that it's because of this that is blocking them from taking them to the next level. So then we can work with that. So everyone has a different entry point, and I think that for me my books is part of my offer as a catalyst. So as a catalyst, what I do is I coach, I consult with organizations, I do a variety of things. But at the end of the day, what I want to say is that we are there not to be the expert, but we are there to kind of create an environment, create a space that inspires everyone actually, all the co-creators in that space, with innovating, with growing from a very happy space. That change can happen more joyfully. That we can have growth without necessarily the pain. So we often have associated that it's a painful journey. We will get growth. We can't go get growth without pain. And actually, we can experience some amount of discomfort and but overall, in the grand scheme of the entire change journey, the entire change process for a big shift, we can actually 80% of the time be in a very happy, joyful place and inspiring people in the whole journey as well. And that's the kind of thing that is what actually makes the difference, in my opinion, between when we create from a place of angst, from a place of anxiety, from a place of anger, versus when we create from a place of love, from a place of care, from a place of like recognizing that we're not alone and that we have a purpose here, and in a more caring way, in a more systemic way. And it's not about who wins and who loses. It's there's no winner and there's no loser. But to be able to do that, I personally feel that we need to work with catalysts, because of the whole systemic view. And I think that if each of us in the room then start viewing each other as catalysts, the whole dynamic shifts as well, because every person is a creator of their own experience and a creator of their own reality. And if we step into that space, the embodiment and the empowerment that comes from that enables something very different to come out. So that's where the innovation piece comes in, and people are often really, really surprised and inspired by that. So yeah, I hope this answers. I know I answer questions in a bit all over the place, Martha. I recognize that, but yeah, hopefully it gives a sense, a broad sense of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, so it leads to something else. So yeah, that's useful to know. The process that you use also in your corporate work, and so you mentioned a few times catalyst. We have 2 minutes to break. So what does a catalyst do?
What does a catalyst do? Okay, so I would you could call them facilitators of truth, perhaps, or catalysts. They come in, they do a variety of things, but mainly they code, they consult, everything else. But mainly what they do is they really create a space that can inspire innovation, inspire growth, and inspire freedom. That's what catalysts do. So they're not project consultants that try to solve a problem, but what catalysts do is catalysts would try to bring the future in today and support the clients or the person who wants to work with the catalyst to bring their dreams today into today. So the focus a lot is on the dream, the outcome, rather than trying to identify the root causes and trying to address the root causes. Not so much a problem-solving approach to things. It's more a dream-focused solution. Sure. And it comes from.
So what about those people who don't know who they are and what they want? Then there's nothing to facilitate if they don't know, right? So we have a break.
Let's talk about this after the break. Yeah, it's a very good question. Yes. Okay.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment, a philanthropic organization. Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
What's up? This is Brad and Mike from Lincoln Park for Life Beat, the music industry fights AIDS.
Listen up, times are tough and you get a lot of things thrown your way. If you're being pressured to have sex and you're not ready, then say no. If you're having sex, be smart and use protection. Respect yourself and protect yourself.
For more information, call the National AIDS Hotline at 1-800-342-AIDS or log on to www.lifebeat.org.
Hello, and welcome to Eros Evolution. And we explore the link between sex and spirit on this show. And we're with Adele Lim, and just before the break, she was talking about her work as a catalyst. And my question to her was, how can you catalyze something if your client doesn't know what they want? So if they don't know what they want, then where do you go from there? Adele?
Yeah, yes. That's a really, really, really fascinating question that I love to talk about. My premise is that the client knows. That's the premise that I begin from. And my role is to support the journey for the client to be able to stand in the place that they are actually vibrating to their inner self, the inner core of who they are. They know, and from that place, once we are in that state of being, then we can engage the thought process. But until we get into that state of being, all the engagement that we have in the thought process might be clear one day and then change another day, clear one day and then change another day. So, or we get into the state of confusing ourselves. So actually, the point that I begin with is that the clients know. We all know what we want. We all know vibrationally what we want. We might not have a clear idea of how to get there. We might not have a belief that, that we can get there. But yeah, that's what we're trying to get at.
Cool. Okay. So, I think I agree with you on that. I think we get in our own way, and it's really important to get clear. And I think we have distracting thoughts and, stuff that comes up, resistance, fear, and it's really important to get deeper than just at superficial level. So it sounds like you have different kinds of tools to help you work with your clients, including inner dance.
There's a variety of tools.
Yeah, so basically what you do is you work with companies and you work with individuals, right?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, so basically you work with clients and individuals, right?
Yes, I do.
And so if listeners wish to engage with you, they can read your book, and how does
they
it
can
work
find me on
Facebook.
How does it work? So yes. So I am very open to co-creating and collaboration. So from the very start of my project, my work, it's always been bespoke. Whatever that I do is always bespoke to the customer. So it's really high touch. And people engage with me through in many ways, through reading the books, through contact, following me on Facebook, through actually connecting, sending me messages directly on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and we can start working in that way. And so I don't have any specific set ways for how I work, and there's no fixed methodology. I have a framework, and at the end of the day, what happens is that with the client, something else would come up from that. That's my premise. That's how I work. And with companies, it's the same thing. But usually we will have a brief upfront, what the company wants, and typically what my corporate clients come to me for to support their culture change work, because often it's to do with trying to bring a future in and trying to support a mergers and acquisition process on a softer side of things. So not so much the kind of the hard project management stuff, but more of the where we can actually really bring the human aspects, the whole human being in. And at a time of change, it's actually the greatest opportunity to do this kind of work. When things are not in change, no one wants to kind of rock the boat. But when you're forced to, when a company is forced to face that, whether it's a change of leadership, whether it's a restructure, a downsizing, or a merger, people have no choice but to look into it. And also there is a reason to do it, because we want to create something different. And so when I work with corporate clients, it tends to be like that. So it tends to be in groups and in project-based type of environments. So always welcome to having conversations and collaborations.
Cool. So there are different ways to engage with you. So tell us, I know you said your book carries themes about sexuality, spirituality, and creation. So what do you see is the link between sex and spirit?
Oh, I actually, my journey to healing my relationship with my sexuality came because of my spiritual journey. So I think that it leads. It's kind of people come in different strands. So some this is my opinion. I think it's just a different road that leads to a similar path. So I took the kind of a spiritual growth perspective and personal growth perspective all the way through until I reached a block to the core, which is around shame and guilt. And likewise, some other people might just go through life with more focusing on the senses and kind of really growing in that space and really being connected to the senses, and we all the way reach something where they need to connect with spirit. So it's a different path, but it ultimately leads to the point of unity, what I call unity, a union between the sex and the spirit. And when these two meet, then there's a profound spark that can happen, like what we call a breakthrough. And in our lifetimes, we go through these kind of experiences, perhaps quite a number of times. But once we cross that bridge, so to speak, there is no turning back. So you cannot not see what you now see, to put it mildly. And with that, then comes another whole layer of adventure, of new opportunities, of new choices. And what I have found in my experience is that how I have been creating and how I have been being and how I have been living my life has been like completely, born, died. So from a spirit perspective, I've lived and died several times, several lifetimes in this human life, because in spirit there is no time, there is no space. The connection with sex is the the human side of it, the human experience of it. That's my feeling. It is an act of creation for the human realm. It's the connection with the soul. It's what makes being human worthwhile, to put it that way. So so that's how I see the connection. I see the connection as sex plus spirit, plus creation that comes from it. It's to do with connecting from chakra terms. In my mapping in my head is the sacral chakra and the heart chakra, and the circling between the two, the healthy flow between the two aspects, kind of allows the full flow of the rest and full growth and full evolution in cycles of all the rest of the system, all the 10 bodies from the Kundalini yoga tradition, from all the the 7 chakras that the energy flows through. I see that link and that weaving, and I think that it's not something that I study. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a sexologist. But for me it came from experience, and for other people it might come from different forms. So for me it came from a personal experience that I'm sharing, and I would not have had the courage to share as openly as I have in my books if not for some level of deep healing of my shame and guilt, and it is also largely linked to the fact that my knowledge and my understanding and my acceptance of my own sexuality was not catered for and not kind of encouraged and not allowed in an environment where that as a topic is taboo and curiosity around it is shunned upon. So I think that from that perspective, everything is connected. And if we have a healthy relationship with the sex, with our sexuality, our spirituality, then what we create is amazing. When everything is in flow, what we create is just like is 10 times greater than what we could have created otherwise.
Great, thank you for sharing. So what you're saying is that you were on a spiritual journey, you found that there was a block, and then you realized that this was the last frontier, which was really getting connected with your sexuality. And you said that you see this link between our sex center and our heart center.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Right? I'm just trying to summarize.
Yes. Amazing, Martha. You did an amazing job. So it's I would say like my relationship with my sexuality rather than my own sexuality per se, because everything is evolving. So everything is in relation to another. That's how I see things, and I see how to say relationships rather than it being me. Does it make sense? So I see like energy. I feel and I my perspective of things is around energy flowing through me, whether it feels good or not so good, pleasant or unpleasant, excitement or whatever. But I'm never now after the journey that I've been on, I no longer feel like, oh, I'm so sad or I'm so, I actually honestly feel and deeply feel this intense energy that kind of I feel the sadness flowing through. I feel this thing passing through. And I'm no longer attached to it, and I'm no longer clinging to it. I'm no longer wanting to, control it. And every time I try to do that, or every time I feel pain, I catch myself and I know that, oh, actually, it's because I'm blocking it. I'm not allowing it to flow. I'm resisting, and that's why I have these feelings. And whenever I consciously do that, the energy moves a lot quicker through me, and then it evolves. So I always see it as a relationship to my sexuality, relationship to my spirituality, etc., etc.
That's great. Thank you. So yeah, we have a break, and we'll come back and wrap up the show for the last 50 minutes. So stay tuned.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
To get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Hello, and welcome to the last 15 minutes of today's show. And we are with Adele Lim, the founder of and lead catalyst of Whole Capacity. And in today's show, she talked about her 2 books as well as her own inner journey through, for instance, inner dance, the process, the work that she does working with clients as individuals and organizations to go through change so that they can create the desired future together. And just before the break, she also addressed the question of the link between sexuality and spirituality and creation for her. And you can find her at wholecapacity.com. And, of course, you can also purchase her 2 books. They are also available on Amazon. Live Your Whole Capacity and Love with Passion and Perspective. So, is there anything you'd like to add, Adele?
I was just listening into the ad earlier, and it kind of just prompted me to think about the whole Me Too campaign that was going on viral on Facebook, and it just like brought to mind as well the second book that I wrote, Love with Passion and Perspective, and how that dovetailed into that through one of my experiences with recognizing where one of the reasons for where I might have held shame and might have held guilt before from really young, from some things that I never thought could happen. So what I have written in that book is why I talk about this victim and perpetrator mindset, and what I want to invite people to step into is to avoid the blame game, so to speak, and to really take responsibility for our own lives, because otherwise what we do is we end up swinging from one pendulum to another, from the victim becoming the perpetrator and the perpetrator becoming the victim, and as we move in this evolution from the older ways, or rather the historical ways, I would call it, for fighting for change, is we cannot fight for change. I feel that we step up to change. We invite the new. We allow the emergent to come. But if we keep fighting, what we end up fighting is ourselves, and what we end up making is the other person, so-called the perpetrator. Then we become the perpetrator, and they become the victim. So I think that's kind of what came to me as I was listening. So yeah, to answer your question.
So what should we do then?
Let's dialogue. Yeah, but for me, it's stepping. It's really wanting to being able to envision the future that we want, and not we want things to change today. These things, that's why we fight for it. So, for example, we want certain things with regards to the consequences of a misuse in the Hague Convention, and how it has created a lot of angst among, cases where there is no real parental abduction, for example. And we want the law to change, yeah. And we could go down many paths. But if we were to try to force something to happen because we want things to change today, but we're not able to step into the kind of reality that would entail, then this change cannot really happen in a sustainable way. And even if it did change, it's not going to last. So my challenge is to look beyond the nitty-gritty, so to speak. We need the nitty-gritty, but to take a bigger perspective of things, to look at a space where it is not led by fear, it is not led by anger. Then what will we create instead? What will we encourage instead? What kind of conversations will we have instead? So to come in from that perspective, then the way we dialogue about law, the way we dialogue about how we support a simple example, how we support international families relocating. We are not going to talk about how much we're going to do for shipping costs and things like how much we're going to give for benefits. We will be talking very differently about how can we support a family moving internationally. What kind of things do they need to know? What kind of briefings do they need to know to maintain a healthy love within the family, because it impacts everything in life. So that's kind of where I'm dreaming and hoping that people would join collectively to do it, because I think that these are it is happening everywhere in pockets. And the more we can shift the narrative to not pointing fingers, and the more we can shift the narrative to what is my part in this, and what can I do today to use myself as an instrument for change, to use myself to embody that change, and to inspire that in other people. That's the only way I feel that is more sustainable, because we're not doing it outside, we're taking it inside and reflecting it back, so that we can actually demonstrate and inspire and become kind of catalyst. So if the whole world became catalyst, imagine the whole world with no shame, no guilt, no narcissism, no codependency, no addictions, no abuse. It'd be a very different place, And at the end of the day, the perpetrators, so-called perpetrators that we are angry about, they are as much as the victim as we are. We are all human. And if we recognize that fallibility of humanity, there is a much different place to play for all of us, and we all have a place here, and everyone is a part of us. If I take a macro view of things, that's what I arrive at. And if we can live that with that rhythm, with that heartbeat on a day-to-day basis, our whole quality of life changes. That's my feeling.
Great. Yeah, I think it's important to talk about these things and to be in conversation with this. And you are already doing this with your clients, individuals and corporates. And so for listeners out there, is there anything practical? Do you have tips for them on how to thrive in change?
Yes, I think one thing I would say is you need to prioritize self-care, because you are the key instrument of change, and every instrument you need to look after it in order for it to be effective. So you need to look after yourself, because if you don't, then you have nothing to give, nothing to offer to the world if you're not well. So prioritize self-care especially in times of change, and then practice getting back on the stream, what I call practice getting back on stream, which means that when we don't feel good, it means we're off track, off stream. It's not necessarily anything else, but more our role then is not about to solve that problem out there anymore. It's more how am I going to get myself to a better feeling place before I even think about how to solve the problem. So it's working really on your emotion, using your own inner guidance to work with. And then I always say to people, you work with a change catalyst. Change catalysts have something different to offer in terms of the space, in terms of what they can do. And you can recognize change catalysts. They might not necessarily call themselves a change catalyst, but often people who can facilitate truth, can mirror, can hold space with and embody that in their whole being. And this comes from your own resonance with the person as well. And we might have different catalysts for different parts of our lives, But always to work with a change catalyst, they can work with you side by side to co-create your future that is, beyond linear, beyond logical, beyond practical conditions, And the change catalysts are there to be useful. They are all for you to use in honor of the greater you. They're there not to be helpful, not to be liked by you necessarily, but they are there to hold space, and they're there to honor the greater you. So that's what I would say, like my top tips, to look after yourself, focus on getting back on stream whenever you catch yourself going off stream, and to wherever you can, find your change, find your catalyst that you can work side by side with and co-create your future.
Great. Thank you so much for that. That's really practical and definitely very useful to be reminded of the need to have support and to do a check-in to yourself, take care of yourself, and to do what is necessary to be in the stream, to be in the highest vibration possible, because how we are will affect the people around us and also the results that we will get.
Precisely. I think when we recognize that we're not just a body, that we are a field, we are 10 bodies, we are massive, there is a greater honor for you as a whole being. And when we recognize that, the way we show up would be very different in the world, because we are all here to be awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. Are there any last words that you have for listeners?
I guess my favorite tagline is I always say that no matter what happens in life, never forget to celebrate who you are. That has become my mantra for a while. Never forget to celebrate who you are.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing So listeners can engage with you by going to your website. Your website is wholecapacity.com, and Facebook is also Whole Capacity. Any other shout out you want to have?
Yes. I do have a platform that I run as well, Roughly Whole. Also, you can find it on Facebook, and I also have a platform for women to share their journey towards their passion. And my next broadcast is on this Saturday. So there is a closed Facebook group for women, people who identify themselves as women, to join and to participate. And it's a closed group, safe space for that you can hear really true, honest, open sharing for women. A lot of them entrepreneurs. So Passion Share Fest is the group. Rawfully Whole is the other group where I talk about where it's like my platform as well. Thank you, Martha.
Great. Thank you. So, listeners, stay tuned next week as I bring you a different guest. And in the meantime, work on being of the highest vibration. You can change the world with that. So, yeah, goodbye and have a great week ahead.